Welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the voice of the state of Jefferson in the Central Valley. I am Matthew, joined by Pat. How are you, Pat?
I'm doing well, Matthew. Thank you.
Aaron's also with us.
How you doing, guys? Good, thanks.
This episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio is sponsored by ALS Certified Safe and Lock. ALS offers locksmithing services and alarm systems for a range of applications, including burglary, fire, tamper, medical emergencies, and much more. ALS has been locally owned and managed in Modesto for nearly 70 years, and with thousands of loyal and satisfied customers, you can be sure that ALS will not only meet but exceed your needs. For more information, call 1-800-700-4780 or go to alsalarm.com. That's ALSALARM.com. Thank you so much to ALS Certified Safe and Lock for sponsoring our show. Pat.
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Matthew. Thank you.
We have a special guest, right?
We do have a special guest, and this afternoon, we have Terry Rapoza. He is not a leader. But he's leading the way for the state of Jefferson. Welcome, Terry Rapoza.
How are you all doing tonight?
Well, we're doing good. Aaron is here too. Say hey, Aaron.
Hey, Pat. All right, hey, Terry. How you doing?
There you go.
Doing good, Aaron.
Good. Well, this afternoon, Terry, I'd like to. We now have a preamble to our Constitution, and is there any way that we could get you to maybe read that, because it is awesome? Could we get you to read that first?
And I think that the thing we have to be looking at is that for 5 years we've been fighting the fight for representation, and as we go through this fight, the idea is the press is now calling us Jefferson. The people who oppose us call us Jefferson. Maybe we should start calling ourselves Jefferson. And this preamble was written by Mark Baird, and I'll read it to you.
Okay, thank you.
These are times in the history of men when political discourse leads to a separation of two peoples. We, the people of the state of Jefferson, do not desire separation out of enmity. For in the case of enmity, we hold none toward any man, woman, race, creed. We must separate in the name of representation. The last barrier standing between people and tyranny, however well-intentioned, is nonetheless repugnant. Our safety, our security concerns us not where liberty is at risk. Liberty gives urgent voice to our demand for representation. Representation must reflect our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral imperative. Our inalienable rights to life, liberty, and property are foremost. These are the liberties that people hold most dear. Preservation of our natural and inalienable rights compel us to establish the state of Jefferson. We, the people, direct our representatives now and forever that the intent and meaning of this Constitution shall always be adjudicated to the protection of life, liberty, and property of and for the people of the state of Jefferson. With this state constitution, it is our humble prayer to Almighty God to secure liberty for our posterity. It was written by Mark Baird.
That is just awesome. And if anybody wants to read that or reread or look through that one more time, it is on the Jefferson Messenger at soj51.org.
We'll have a link in the show notes, so take a look there, and you can just tap on it and go straight to it.
Excellent. Nice. Okay, that's really good. That's good. Well, Terry, tonight we'd like to talk to you about, can we talk about the court case a little bit? What is going on there? We are suing the state of California for lack of representation and dilution of vote. Can you give us some ideas or give us anything new on that, on the lawsuit?
Where we are now?
Right. Is there anything new? Or just give us some information.
Yeah, we've gone to appeals, and we're in the appellate process. Our particular time of getting our appeal in and our position in is May the 1st, and we're going to wait till that time to do it, only because it gives the opposition less time to respond. One of the main things that that we've been dealing with has been the Judge Mueller's position of something that is highly irregular, and that's putting it nicely. What happened is that when we filed this court case, we filed it in federal court, we filed for lack of representation and dilution of vote. Our position being that we have one senator for every million people and one assemblyman for every 500,000, which is 300 times worse than any other state. When we filed this court case in federal court, we understood that any court case that is not frivolous and has merit does move to the position of a three-judge court. Why did we want a three-judge court? When you have a three-judge court in a lack of representation or dilution of vote case, that means that the appellate process, which means whoever wins or loses, wherever that appellate position goes, is to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and we felt that was our best chance. Now, in 2017, in August, Judge Mueller gave us our three-judge court. We were quite excited about that because we knew, again, that the appellate process would go to the Supreme Court of the United States of America and we'd get a fair shake. However, about a week later, she rescinded that particular position. Now, that's important to understand because remember, when a case has lack of representation or dilution of vote, the only way it can be moved away from a three-judge court is if it lacks merit or it's frivolous. Now, we went to court. Judge Mueller heard us. We've been to court twice now. And the last time we were in court, both Judge Mueller and the attorney for the state said this is a very serious question about representation and the lack thereof. There's no way that one per a million and one per 500,000 can give us any kind of liberty that we need for Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, which guarantees us a Republican form of government. When that happened, and she said that on the record, and the attorney for the Secretary of State agreed, that made the case not frivolous. Now, the other thing they said is that this is a very serious question, very, very serious question. Well, then it has merit. So therefore, it has taken the standing for the two things that would give us a three-judge court. And our attorney's response was, Judge Mueller, you've given us a three-judge court at one point, then you rescinded it. We could not find that anywhere in the judicial record that's ever been done before. There's nowhere in the record. Mm-hmm. In other words, there's no judge in a case for lack of representation or dilution of vote that has ever asked the magistrate for a three-judge court that has rescinded it. Never happened before. A lot of people, and I'll just do this as a bit of a sidebar, a lot of people say, well, you know, the state of Jefferson thinks it's crazy. This is never going to happen. We're not going to get the representation that we have a right to in Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. Right. We're never going to have that. And it makes no sense. Well, if it makes no sense, and we're just a bunch of silly fools doing this,
well,
why is it?
May I just interrupt you just one moment? Going back to how the case had merit, didn't Judge Mueller say that this case has merit? Didn't she admit to that?
They admitted it in two ways, that the case had merit because it was a very serious question.
It definitely has merit. Okay, please continue.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this and you look at the position she took, well, when Gary Zerman, who is our attorney, who asked that question, well, we've never seen it's never happened that somebody has rescinded a three-judge court before. That's never happened. Well, why did she do that? Because she sought advice from the Ninth Circuit. That's on the record. The problem with that is that how do you seek advice from judges or a judge or maybe the Chief Justice of the Ninth Circuit? Just saying. How can you do that when that judge has never heard the live testimony of the cases? You say that.
Say that one more time. How does she, the live testimony of what? Because that
the live testimony that's in a court case.
Okay. Yeah.
Because what happened there is basically we are now in the court case process. The judge isn't there to even hear our arguments, who she referred to as talking to about the position of going back on the three-judge court. That judge had never heard anything. He'd never heard the oral arguments. He had never read the case. How do you get that? How do you do that?
Right.
Is that ethical?
It's not ethical. It's not moral. No, neither.
Is it lawful?
Right. It's not lawful.
So that's a whole other position. So anyway, that's the position basically we're taking. The case has to be either frivolous or without merit. And I'll go to a court case called McManus versus Shapiro, and I hope I'm not getting too technical here. And if I am, please stop me.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Shapiro versus McManus basically stated, and it was actually Judge Scalia's last opinion he gave before he mysteriously died in his sleep. But yeah.
Eyebrow raise there.
Right. And so the thing is that the position of the Supreme Court of the United States with that opinion was that in a case of lack of representation and dilution of vote, the only way it can be dismissed by a single judge is if it shows it does not have merit or it's frivolous, which in testimony and in the record, that's not the case. Therefore, the judge must, not may or should, must ask the magistrate for a three-judge court, which is what she did originally. Very interesting, huh?
Yes, it is very interesting. Okay, Terry, let's move on. For that, the case has merit. It is not being handled lawfully on the judge's part. Things are kind of a lot of eyebrow raising over on my part, I guess, or our part, that she's not handling this in the correct way, and she's doing some things that seem unethical, immoral, and unlawful at this point. So where are we right now? We are in the Court of Appeals, and when did that get filed? That appeal get filed?
We're actually in the Ninth Circuit, yes.
Okay, in the Ninth Circuit.
We are going to file it. I may have mentioned that at the beginning, but maybe I wasn't clear. On May 1st, we'll be completing our appeal and the posturing that goes with that. Yeah.
Okay, that happens on May 1st.
We're waiting for that time because when you file an appeal in court, you have 30 days, they have 30 days, you have 30 days, they have 30 days, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But if you're eager and you appeal early, well, they could have more than 30 days.
Okay, I get it. I get it. So there is a time limit on this appeal. Then is that right?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Because it took forever for us to get any kind of information back from the judge on the case, and that when are we going to hear?
The first time, to be clear, the first time what happened is that she gave us leave to amend. In other words, what she said was, I'm not going to dismiss this case, even though the state was trying to push for that. What I want you to do, these are the things I'm going to want. I'm going to send you back things that I have questions on. When you get these back to me, I'll decide whether or not I like them. If I don't like them, I'll have you amend the complaint again. A lot of times in court, there's a thing called an amended complaint, and it can go on for, quite some time. In that the judge may think that, gosh, I can't dismiss this, but I kind of got to put it on hold. I guess the easiest way to explain it is you have a customer that calls an office and put that customer on hold.
Yeah.
How long can you do that, you see? Yeah.
Good analogy. Good analogy there. If we can move on to maybe another, just a little
sure.
different subject.
Whatever you want.
Well, as far as illegal voting goes and what is happening in the state as far as who is voting, how they're getting to vote, the way they're voting. Would you like to go into a little bit about that? Have you been following?
Well, I have a good.
Go ahead.
Do you know who Linda Paine is with the election?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had her on, and wow,
a really
excellent.
good friend. She came up here and stayed with us, and we talked and went through some different things. We're kind of working a bit hand in hand with that.
Oh, good,
and,
good. Yeah, we really. I have
ahead,
nothing but respect for her. Go ahead.
Oh, she's great. She's great.
Yes, agree.
Judicial Watch did win their court case, and therefore the County of Los Angeles, and I hope you're sitting down for this one, has to go back and research 1,500,000 voters that had been either shown to be illegal or double vote processes or a position to where people are dead, all this different stuff. But there was 1,500,000 just in the county of Los Angeles alone. That
is a jaw dropper.
It is. And then when you look at this being on a national scale, gosh.
Yeah.
See, I think this is the deal. The deal is that, when we look at what's happened to the Democratic Party, and believe me, the Republican Party is no prize now, especially in California.
No.
But what's happened to the Democratic Party is a position of the rule of law is gone. And I explained it to a senator I talked to in this way. This was kind of an analogy I gave him. It's sort of like, your position, sir, is that you play by the rules. I'm going to play by the rules here. So we're playing a game of poker. And you show you have 4 aces. And there's a pot in the middle of the table. And you show your 4 aces. And gosh, gee, I win. I have 4 aces. That's all there is. Well, he shows 5 aces. But you already have 4, but he showed 5. And he just said, no, 5 trumps 4. And you say, well, I'm going to play by the rules. And he says, I'm not. And he pulls the money back toward his side. And that's sort of what the Democrats have been doing to all of us. It's the old adage of the rule of law. And, I really think that the immigration issue is just something that is beyond the pale of what's going on in so many different ways. And, again, in the state of Jefferson, we will understand that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 in the United States Constitution, which we give, and I know I'm skipping around here, but is that okay?
Yeah, what was that again? It's Article 1, Section 8.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4.
Clause
the United States Constitution.
Okay.
We'll have that as a link in the bullet.
Is it okay if I skip around here?
Thank you.
Or you tell me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the reason I bring this up is because it shows the position of the government, and especially the Democrats in the government, that are in a position to say we're not going to play by the rules. So let's take that. Now, immigration was given Article 1, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, was given to the federal government. What we did, it was pretty simple. And for folks that are listening, this is kind of how the Constitution worked. A bunch of us got together. It was like 13 states got together, and we said, well, you know what? There are certain things that we want you to do, federal government, and we're going to do this Constitution. And since we've done this Constitution, it binds you, not the people. So what we're going to do is give you certain things that we want you to do. Now, if we don't like what you're doing, we want to change it, what we're going to do is a thing called an amendment. And so what we're going to do with that is we're going to put ourselves in a position to where we will get together, and 2/3 of us will get together and say, hey, we want to change this. Now, when the 3/4 of the 2/3 agree that we want to change this, we'll get that amendment going, and guess what? We won't let you do anymore what we gave you to do that we don't want you doing anymore. It's that simple. And that is basically the crux of what's happened with immigration. So we said, okay, guys, you have naturalization, because that's the term used in the Constitution. And you guys do that, and you guys take care of that, and that's what we're going to have you do. Now, you fast forward to California with the sanctuary state. Now, I'm sure you all understand that what happened is that several people who are elected officials have broken the law. You guys understand that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. They definitely have broken the law.
And Governor Brown and Gavin Newsom and DeLeon, Rendon, and Becerra, and Senator Kamala Harris have broken the law. You know how they've broken it?
How so?
They've broken it through United States Code, and you can write this one down.
Okay. Got it.
Section 8, United States Code 8, Section 1324, they have harbored and shielded an illegal alien. That's a felony under federal law. And I apologize, I'm getting a little distracted here because I've had 3 phones go off. You probably heard that.
Yes.
While we've been talking.
Some
I
distractions
apologize.
here as well. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good. And so when you look at that, these people have committed felonies. That's a felony. Now, I did talk to 2 assemblymen and 1 senator about this.
Yeah.
What's your position on how do we handle this? How would we normally handle this? If someone broke the law and it's a felony, wouldn't we prosecute them? Their position was, well, no, we sue them.
Why would?
Okay. Yeah, we sue them. We go to court. Well, how does that work? Because what you're saying is that if someone commits a felony, let's say that your neighbor's son is murdered, does your neighbor sue the murderer?
Very good. No,
the
they would be arrested and they would go to. They would go to court. Yes.
You're right.
And they would be tried by a jury of their peers.
Yes, ma'am. And you're right about all that. So I challenge them both. Why don't you do that? You know what it is? It's all a matter of stones, as Ben Franklin called them.
Right.
And we have a position now where the Republican Party in California is almost gone.
Democrat. Republicrats is what they are now.
Well, what's happened is that in the Assembly, out of the 80, they have actually 19 seats left. And Chad Mays, remember that name?
Oh, I know. We're
someone
well aware of him.
He will defect, Pat. There's no question. That will leave them with 18. According to Steve Frank, in a radio interview we did with him about 4 weeks ago now, he believes that in the next election they'll lose 3 more, which will bring them down to 15. Well, it gets better because in the Senate there are 10 Republicans. The Democrats keep winning and winning and winning and winning. Now, why do they win? Why do you think they win? I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want your opinion. Why do you think they keep winning?
Aaron?
Well, I just have to say that the populous areas on the coastline and down south of the Grapevine is where all the political power and the money is. And
they are Santa Claus. No one is going to not vote for something that they get for. They're going to vote for something they get for free, and they're going to keep those kind of people in power.
Yep.
That's my point of view. Are we close, Terry? Terry?
I'm sorry, I hit mute.
Oh, okay. So
I do that because I want to make sure that
it's okay.
That's good. Sorry about the phone. I apologize. I can't.
Okay. So
anyway,
you heard you heard what we said. Were we close?
I heard what you said.
Okay.
But here's the bottom line.
Okay.
The bottom line is we look at the Republicans, they always seem to do the same thing. The Republicans run on a platform, have a position, and then never follow that position. Whether it's right, wrong, or different, they don't follow that position. Name one person who has been in the Assembly or is in the Assembly or is in the Senate on the side of the Republicans that's really holding the line on Republican values. Most of the time, they'll cave to the other side.
They will. I
did have one particular, there's a race we have here where the minority leader, Brian Dowley, is running for state Senate from the Assembly. And he's loved by the Democrats and he's loved by the Republicans. And he's loved by both parties because of the fact that he reaches across the aisle. However, in the 2,119 laws that were passed, were we actually introducing legislation as a party, if you're talking about the Republicans? Or were they just trying to stop the Democrats from hurting the Republicans more and hurting the people more? Which were they doing? So the Democratic Party, when they run for office and they win, their constituents know exactly what they're doing, and the constituents are behind what they're doing, and the constituents are getting people who are in office representing what they're doing. And that's the whole issue right there. The Republicans do not do the will of the people. The Republicans do not put themselves in a position to where they'll follow their own platform. The idea is compromise. And Pat, you and I both know what an appeaser is, right?
Yes.
An appeaser is someone that feeds all his friends to the crocodiles first and hopes he is eaten last.
I think we know one in history. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know one in rather historical, famous, Neville Chamberlain comes to mind.
Yes.
Well put. Well put, my friend. Well put. Yeah.
Exactly. That's an excellent example.
No, and we look at
when has appeasing ever worked?
Absolutely, and great point, Pat. You know, and you look at a situation where, you know, first of all, you can never reason with a tiger when your head's in their mouth. Oh. You know, it's all positions of understanding what we got here. We can say, well, it's all the free stuff. Well, it doesn't matter what it is that the Democrats are doing. They're following through on what they're saying they're doing. The Republicans don't. I mean, look what we've had on a national level. Come on, John Boehner, seriously? I mean, you know, Paul Ryan. I mean, think about these guys.
Oh, my gosh.
Our own congressman in our area. He voted for the TPA. He voted for the TPP. He voted for the debt ceiling to be raised. He voted for all the things, even though he got thousands and thousands of calls to the contrary. He still voted for him. You look at Kevin McCarthy, people like that. These people are in there for their own personal gain. And, I mean, I'm sorry, you know, but that's just the fact of it. That's just the truth of it.
Right.
One thing we can be thankful for is our president, as he went in there. You know, I was talking to a young man last night who is very strong with Howard Jarvis, and we were talking at dinner last night. And it's you know, we're talking about the position of the Republican Party and how, oh gosh, they're fading. Well, of course they're fading. They're fading because they won't. Their constituents are wanting to go one way, and they're going another.
Yeah, that's it. Does seem it is frustrating beyond my mind capacity. We do have another question. We'd like to go maybe a little. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, Terry. I know we're changing the subject just a hair, but as far as this gentleman you're speaking of, I think we know who you're talking about. Eric Eisenhammer has, who has a
great guy.
Great Jefferson really guy. Has something out now that he's working towards called Jefferson Chamber of Commerce.
He is, and that's something that's just basically in its infancy. That idea was really started in El Dorado County by a bunch of great folks there. What a great committee they have for Jefferson. And they had an expo, a business expo that was very successful. And, you know, really and truly, who gets affected in this state? The business people get affected, obviously. We have, thousands of them leaving, a month. It's they're going in droves, poor Idaho. And, when you look at this, I mean, you have to understand that we have to unite in a way to where people are going to understand that everything that happens in California will affect not only Californians, but everybody else. And everything that happens in California, do you stand and fight or do you cave and leave? And I think with this Chamber of Commerce position, we give them a voice. We give them a position to say, hey, the people out here really want to really want to promote the position of you folks, understanding we need representation and liberty. And we want to promote that. And that's the real idea behind the Chamber of Commerce. And I'll go ahead and get a hold of Eric and make sure he can come on your program and really expound on that. But I want to go back to what I was saying about Donald Trump.
Okay, go
I want to go back to what I was saying about
Please.
the Republican Party. Donald Trump went in and how many people went against him? Was it 16, 17? Anybody have that number?
How many?
Oh,
17. There were 17 in the race. Yes, there were 17.
Many. Okay. Now, he did it in a very political and respectful, politically correct and respectful way, didn't he?
He did.
Let's see. There was Lion Ted. Jeb, what are you even doing in this race?
So respectful.
Should I go on? Marco, you're a liar.
I know where you're going.
On?
Good. Yes, go. Keep going, Terry.
That's the point. Mm-hmm. And I think that people need to understand that right now it's time to get rid of childish games. The real deal is that this is our liberty. This is our kids, our prosperity. This is the end line here. We have laws coming out in California. You all know they're going to have the water tax, okay, to where you and restriction to where you can use 55 gallons of water per person. We have so much water up here in Shasta County and Shasta Lake. We're letting it out, and it's causing flooding. It isn't a matter, as President Trump said, of too much water. It's a matter of the control that the Democrats are trying to have.
That's it.
The Republican Party, now this is a question I want to ask you guys. Is the Republican Party gone in California? Is it gone?
I believe it is. What do you think?
As we know it, yes. As we knew it, I should say.
No. Is it gone? The Republican Party stands for a certain thing, Aaron. It stands for all these different principles. It stands for this platform. Is it gone or not?
I think it is gone as we knew it. That makes sense.
Well, so what's the new one?
I think the new one is whatever it takes to stay in an office and to advance whatever they need to do to stay in office. Each individual candidate.
Then again, so the Republican Party, and maybe I wasn't clear, you're talking about the people that are elected. I'm talking about the party itself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, that's
okay. And my mistake. No, you're fine. It's just I didn't really explain myself well. And Pat, you're right in that. Okay, if in fact Steve Frank is a prophet, and so far he has been to a degree, we know we're going to lose Chad Mays. We've already lost the character who went in San Diego to another party. We've already lost him. So that brings it down to what? That'll bring him down to 18. We have an election now with Brian Daly and Kevin KAHI going at each other for a state Senate seat vacated by Ted Gaines in District 1. And what's happened there is that Ted Gaines has gone to the State Board of Equalization. So there's a special election, which will not only cost millions of dollars, but put the Republican Party in a very vulnerable position. If one of these two assemblymen win, there'll be an election, a special election in their area. Now, given that, could there be a position to where they could lose, meaning the Republicans, that seat to a Democrat? Well, good possibility. When Steve Frank made his prediction, he wasn't even including that position as far as that election goes. He was talking about just what would be lost down south in the next election. And part of the problem is the Republican Party saying, we're not going to allow independents or declined states to even vote in our primary. Well, why not? The declined state and independents in the state of California outnumber the Democrats and the Republicans because people have just been fed up.
So it's kind of a chess. Well, it is definitely a chess game that the Democrats are playing, and it seems like they are definitely winning this game.
Well, here's two things that you might want to keep and that's why we need the state of Jefferson, because we don't have representation. Yes. We need to make the state smaller. But one quick thing to think about. Do you all know who Tom McClintock is?
Yes.
Okay. In his Senate district, he ran against a young woman named Jessica Morris. Now, Jessica came out of nowhere, a veteran Democrat, said all the right things. Papa was a veteran, 4-H'er, all that good stuff. I really think it's okay to have guns for hunting, all this good stuff. But by gosh, by golly, I am a liberal Democrat. And she came out of the chute from nowhere, and she got 47% of the vote.
Wow.
47 out of the chute. Audrey Denny was a school teacher, ran against Doug LaMalfa. And Doug LaMalfa is the District 1 congressional seat. And LaMalfa is a guy that basically has had a Heritage Foundation rating as high as 83%. In other words, the area is so Republican that it would be almost impossible for him to lose a race. The last election, he went against Audrey Denny, and Audrey Denny is a school teacher, 4-H'er. Dad was a veteran, Grandpa was a veteran, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's really good to hunt, and I even own a shotgun, but gosh, we've got to do something about all these guns out there. We've got to do something to stop that. And, oh, by the way, illegal immigrants, they're just, we can't separate the families. You know where I'm going with all this.
You are, yes.
43% right out of the chute. Audrey Denny right now in the Republican Party has quit her teaching job, already has amassed a war chest in California to run for Congress against LaMalfa again. Remember, 34 years old, ran, got 43%. She has already amassed at this point a war chest of anywhere between $1 million and $5 million, and she doesn't work anymore. She started her campaign already. And oh gosh, same thing is happening with Jessica Morris. So you look at the positions that the Democrats are taking. Again, these are all things that their constituents want.
Right.
We want what? We want right to life. We want a position where we have our liberty. We want the gas tax lowered. We want to have a position of representation. All the different things we want, we ask our elected officials to bring us that, and they don't.
And they don't.
People like Brian Daly that reach across the aisle and try to get something stopped. But every time you reach across the aisle and you negotiate, you give something away. Isn't that right?
So, it kind of goes back to this is just that one example that I heard President Trump speak of. He was talking about the taxes or the
fire tax?
No, not the taxes. I'm talking about what we charge people for importing, and it's called tariffs. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word tariffs. So when he was talking to the Chinese about the tariffs, and he says, "Well, I asked him. They said we've never had anybody ask us about the tariffs, so we just never paid any tariffs. Nobody gave us any or made us pay any tariffs. So basically, you got to start taking a stand and stand for something. They're not, obviously. So I'm just thinking that might be a good example of the kind of talk that the Republicans need to start doing. Ask and get something done and stand for something. Is that kind of what you're saying, or am I way off on course here?
I think he's muted again.
Terry, are you muted? Am I off?
No, can you hear me?
Yes. Now we can.
Yeah, I think the deal is that, well, I think it's anything. I mean, see, the part of the problem we have is we tend to focus on, we tend to focus a lot on what goes on with the federal government, whereas right here, as California goes, so does the rest of the United States. And that's look at the gun laws, et cetera. I know we have brethren in Idaho and in Oregon that are talking about the new gun laws that are going on there. In fact, in Oregon right now, you you're going to be allowed 15 to 20 rounds a month without having to register. I mean, are you serious? Just all these crazy things. But the deal is that the Republicans are not doing their own platform. They're busy trying to enhance their own position. I think. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think all of this runs deeper than that. And I think it runs deeper in the position of we need to have our liberty, and representation is the bottom line to everything in liberty. If your voice isn't heard, and going back to the court case very briefly, when you look at a situation as far as the issue of representation, when you have different people who are senators and assemblymen who have no position other than to negotiate, and you go back to the court case and the position of gosh, you don't have adequate representation, but no one stands for that. That's the whole key to this. We talk about everything from illegal immigration to having gold and silver as a standard, to the Federal Reserve, to the deep state, to Agenda 21, to Agenda 2030. The real deal is, if you have somebody who doesn't have to listen to you in your representative form of government, then nothing else matters.
That's right. If you're not represented with what you stand for, basically, is what you're. Let me just say this: if you're not being represented for what you stand for, then you're not being represented, and you need. We need the state of Jefferson for that. We need to be represented.
Well, when you look at the benchmark of California originally, right?
Yes. The
benchmark was, in fact, the 40 senators and 80 assemblymen were set in 1862.
That's right.
We had 417,000 people. We've added, 39.5 million?
Yep.
And have not increased representation even once. Even Congress increased representation, which goes back to something you were talking about in the beginning. I'd like to talk to you about Articles of First. I think you'll find that fascinating.
Okay.
But,
we'll do that on another podcast.
Yeah, pretty fun. But when you look at a situation where you've got that kind of increase and not one stitch of representation, when we really didn't cap the House of Representatives till 1911. I mean, the real deal is that you're never going to be able to voice your opinion, or your vote won't count. Your vote doesn't count.
Right.
If you're one in a million. So the benchmark originally was 120 representatiif for 417,000 people. Do we go there again? Well, even if we doubled that, do we go there again? And a lot of people say, well, gosh, if we increase representatives in the assembly, then we've got bigger government. No, we have more representation.
Yeah.
It's the size of the state.
Good point there.
Population.
Good point there.
That has created a mess.
That was good. I'm glad you said that, because it isn't a bigger government. It's a better government for the people, because you're being represented. Here, hopefully listening to what you're saying, and if they don't, they will be voted out. Terry, I think we've covered a lot of really good information tonight. I look forward to that next podcast that we have. We'll talk about that Article the First. You're saying
Articles the First, yeah.
Articles the First, and where do we find that? I feel
you Google Articles the First,
okay,
and basically it's the original First Amendment.
Okay, there we go. That's it. Okay,
we'll have that also as a link in the description.
Thank you, Matthew. And I feel really silly that I didn't know that. I don't know a lot of this stuff, but I'm learning, and that, I believe, is something we all need to keep doing, is learning about our government. So,
well, thank you You guys do too. It's really an honor to be on.
Well,
I appreciate the. I hope that I was able to articulate some things that gave a little pause for at least pondering all these different things we have going on.
yeah.
And I really appreciate the program you guys are doing.
Oh, thanks, Terry. And your program, which is KCNR out of Reading, 1460 KCNR on 9:00 on Sunday mornings. Always
Yes,
a good show. Always worth listening to, people.
Jefferson State of Mine, 1460 KCNR.com. And you can listen to the podcast. We actually archive as far back as 5 years.
Right.
We also broadcast on 96.5 FM and 1460 AM. There's another program, too. It's called Sovereign Minds that comes on right after hours, and again, with all the same podcasting, etc. But it comes on right after hours. It comes on at 10 o'clock and goes from 10 to 12. So there's 3 hours of great listening there.
Very.
And
Yes.
the nice thing about a podcast, if you want to skip through something, you can, or whatever the case may be. But we try to get the word out on everything that we're doing and spread the word of liberty.
Amen. Well, one more thing before you go, Terry. Aaron has one more thing he wants to ask you.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, Terry, what I was going to ask you is I've had people approach me about the court case, and their doubt about us, I should say their doubts, and I'm not sure how to alleviate their doubts that they have about us winning the court or in the appellate court, being that it's in the Ninth Circuit. What would you say to people who are uncertain about our chances in the Ninth Circuit, being that it's such a liberal or not necessarily friendly to us as far as a court is? Does that make sense?
Well, I think there's a lot of things going on with the Ninth Circuit. Frankly, we could go on about that a bit. They're trying to break that up,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're trying to break it up. Actually, the Ninth Circuit covers more population than 40 states combined in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Even Judge Mueller, along with all the other judges on the Ninth Circuit, as of July of last year, are trying to make that a smaller increment. Sound familiar?
Yes. Yes.
Like California, right?
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Right.
But anyways, so they're trying to do that. But let me just say this, that the appellate process we have, it's going to be whether or not the appellate process is moved through. What we have is an ironclad case. What we have is a case that's constitutional, and I quoted, McManus versus Shapiro. I can go on and on with a lot of other court cases, but I don't want to just, have people sit there and pull their eyelashes out going, gosh, is this guy going to ever stop quoting these things? And so, as we look at this, the understanding of whether we're right or not, we're right.
We are right. Yes.
We're right. She blew it. No one has ever rescinded on a 3-judge court before, ever in history, ever. So she blew it. The whole thing is that, will they own up to blowing it? And that's the deal. The deal is the rule of law. The deal is the rule of law. Will they follow the rule of law or not? They're not following the rule of law. I gave you the poker analogy.
Right.
And as long as the Republican Party is as weak as it is, but I would say I'm not even sure that they're weak as much as they're doing what they can do to enhance their own particular position. Remember, a statesman is somebody that represents the people. A politician is someone that represents themselves.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that I like that, and if we can, let's end with this. The time has come for 51. I'm sorry. I just had to. I used your words, Terry. You're in Wynn's words. So there we go. Thanks again so much for being on, Terry, and look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you,
So much.
Terry. Appreciate it.
All right.
That guy.
Thank you again to Terry for coming on to our show and taking time out of his busy schedule to come talk to us. If you're interested in sponsoring our show or know of anybody who may be interested in sponsoring our show, you can head over to jeffersonlibertyradio.com or email us at sponsors@jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We'd love to hear from you. We actually hit 2,000 downloads. We flew past that milestone. We forgot to mention it last week. We flew past that milestone, and we would love to hear more from you, from our listeners. You can email us at feedback@jeffersonlibertyradio.com or via our website, again, jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to us in iTunes, especially if you're listening to this on our website. Head over to iTunes or your podcast player of choice. Hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a regular subscriber, and you'll get your episodes downloaded directly to your phone. Right, really convenient. You get them right there. Leave us a 5-star review or rating it in the places where you can. We would love, love, love that feedback, and it actually helps our ratings in all those places. You can find us on the typical social media, Facebook or Twitter. You can also find our episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and even some alternative media such as BitChute and Gab. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio, and we'll catch you next time.